is there a sort of, we saw the European election results in France and Germany, particularly a shift to the right there, undoubtedly. Is reform just sucking up a disenfranchised, irritated Tory vote that does, as Matt says, that doesn't, not necessarily enthusiastic about Keir Starmer, but a protest vote of sort? Well, or is this part of a wider trend we're seeing?
Well, most of reform's support is coming from disillusioned 2019 Conservatives. There's no doubt about that. By the way, though, the biggest group of voters who are abandoning Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives are not going to Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. They're not going to Labour. They're saying, I'm not going to vote for anybody. I'm going to stay at home. Now, that tells me two things. One is, Rishi Sunak has a last-minute opportunity to try and win those voters back. I think that's unlikely. But it also says Nigel Farage, by the way, has an opportunity to add another few percentage points to Reform's vote if he reaches out into the apathetic masses. Now, if you look across Western democracies today, what we're seeing is clear evidence that ever since 2016, those big revolts for Brexit, for Trump, basically the elites haven't really figured out how to address the concerns and the grievances that millions of voters have about mass immigration, which has been a complete failure, by the way, the erosion of our national borders across Europe, the southern border in the US, the small boats crisis here in Britain, and institutions that many voters rightly feel are not actually giving them a voice in the national conversation. Now, I've been saying this for years, Harry. These populist parties are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, as they are doing. Marine Le Pen becoming president of France, no longer implausible, unless we get real about their concerns.
Matt Sadler, your elites are out of touch, and this is just the result of years of ignoring them. What do you say to that?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I just popped on one of Matt's Substacks. I think he has a lot of followers on Substack.
Thanks for promoting it, Matt.
I don't want to be rude, but it was quite a painful read because he just kept saying the Tory elites, the Tory elites. I lost count of how many times he's talked about the Tory elite. Listen, these elections on the continent, which we've all been paying rightly some attention to, they're not showing there's a massive swing to the far right. Unless I've got my facts wrong, and Harry,
what are you talking about? Matt, you're in cloud cuckoo land. The biggest gains of all went to parties on the radical right.
But before you come back, let me set out my case. The ID party, which we would describe as, you might not, but hard right or far right, they are in fifth place. They're way off the EPP. They're way off the SND. Any predicted or projected surge for the far right or the hard right is wrong. There is a caveat to that.
Who topped the polls in France, Matt? Or how about Austria or the Netherlands or Italy?
There are definitely caveats to that. What's happening in France is worrying for people of my political persuasion. The AfD, the alternative for Germany, they're really worrying as well because they are undoubtedly far right. But don't forget, and I come back to this earlier point, European elections can be seen as protest votes. Remember what I said earlier about 2014, 2009?
Matt, this is a comfort blanket for people on the left.
Farage won both of those elections. He's going to come nowhere near winning.
But when you say protest vote, what it implies is that people are just kind of voting irrationally. They don't know what they're voting for. That's not true. If you look at all the evidence as to why people are voting for Marine Le Pen, for the AfD in Germany, for Nigel Farage in Britain, they have entirely rational, coherent concerns. The left refuses to accept this. They want lower immigration. They want slower demographic, cultural change. They want stronger borders. They don't want the woke stuff being jammed down their throats. They don't want to be told that a woman is a man and a man is a woman. They just want common sense policies. Now, the left can keep saying this is just protest. These people are irrational gammons and bigots and they're misinformed and they're disinformed. But the reality is they have entirely legitimate, understandable grievances about what's going on in the West today.
So let me come back to that, Harry, because it's really important, okay? It is undoubtedly true that the Tories have not delivered on what they said they would do. Remember David Cameron in 2010, promising net migration in the tens of thousands. I mean, that's just laughable. It happened again, I think, in 2015, again in 2017. And some people who really care about immigration, and I don't think it's the majority of people in this country, certainly not the majority of the people in this country think it's a bad thing. Yeah, they are entitled to feel that they have been let down. But if, as Matt says, these are huge issues that are really dominating people's lives, then please could Matt explain to me, who, by the way, like Farage, has absolutely no answers. In his Substack, all he does is point to potential problems. Could you please explain to me, Matt Goodwin, why it is that Reform are unlikely to make, I don't know, 12 seats, 20 seats in this general election? If what you're saying is this great revolt, there's something's happening out there, as Farage says, this great cry to overturn the Westminster elite or the Tory elites, why are they going to do so badly in terms of seats in this election?
Well, the first answer is we have a first-past-the-post election system, which makes it notoriously difficult for new parties to win seats. I suspect where we will end up is Reform winning perhaps 1 or 2, maybe 3 seats. They'll probably poll somewhere around 5 million, 6 million votes. And by the way, they will probably finish second in around, here's a prediction, maybe 100 to 150 seats, including lots of Labour-held seats across the Red Wall, Northern England, like we saw in 2015 when Farage was leading the UK Independence Party. For a new party in the first-past-the-post system to even be talking about Reform just 2 points behind the dominant Conservative Party is in itself a remarkable state of affairs. So what we're likely to see, I think, is actually Reform emerge the day after the election. I suspect Farage will be elected in Clacton. Let's see. Maybe Richard Tice gets over the line in Boston and Skegness. I'm not so sure about that one. But I think we will all look at just how big that Reform vote is, how many second places Reform has, and be reminded of what Farage has said, which is this isn't about the next 20-odd days. This is about the next 1,800 days until the 28-29 general election.
So, Matt, if you're right, Matt...
Oh, I'm always right, Matt.
Well, that there is this great cry for freedom, this great anti-establishment sentiment that is surging, not just here in this country, but across Europe, that Farage is able to tap into this, that he's able to tap into the broken promises of the Tories in 2010, of these 14 years, as I'd see them, of Conservative failure. And by the way, on that, we're united. Neither of us want to see a Conservative government. If you are right about that, surely they should be polling more than 14%. 11, 12, 13, 14%. I mean, in 1 or 2 polls, we've seen them just 2%, admittedly, behind the Conservatives. But that's less than a fifth of the British population.
Right, I think
hang on. If people are so angry, let me finish. If people are so angry about immigration in this country, and in your article that I read, you said that the Tories had let in an assortment of illegal migrants, rapists, would-be Islamist terrorists. That is straight out of the Trump handbook.
It's also true, Matt.
No, your net migration, as you'd be quick to point out, is something like 600,000 or 700,000.
Yeah.
Do you think there are 600,000 or 700,000 would-be Islamist terrorists or
I think people who have come across on the small boats, Matt. I think people who have come across on the small boats, some of whom, by the way, have gone on to pour acid over mothers and children in their cars, some of whom have gone on to rape British schoolgirls down in Kent. Yes, actually, I think this is a serious issue that people care about.
There are criminals. Yeah, where you find human beings, Matt, whether they're white, black, blue or purple, Muslim, Christian, whatever they are, you will find criminals.
So we shouldn't be resolving this issue. We shouldn't be stopping the small boats.
Of course we should be
stopping. Right, there you go then. So let's do it and let's come up with a serious plan.
We agree on that. Yeah, well, of course we both agree on that.
Right, so there you are. What are you arguing about?
What I'm arguing about is the way that you characterise the people. Most of them are desperate to risk their lives.
Even the security services, Matt, have said the people who are coming across are a threat to the British people.
Right, okay, guys.
You know what you're doing.
Time out.
Classic left.